The Russian envoy to Lebanon has called for a political solution in Syria. Russian ambassador to Lebanon, Alexander Zasipkin, has said a political solution is needed to restore stability in Syria. The Russian official said that foreign powers must stop supporting armed groups if an internal solution is to be found. Zasipkin also mentioned that a political solution, quote, meets at the same time the aspirations of the Syrian people for prosperity and the progress away from violence. The Syrian conflict started 23 months ago. Since then, the army has been fighting foreign-backed armed gangs. Damascus accuses the West and its regional allies of blocking a political solution by supporting the insurgents. Government forces in Syria continue to clear pockets of foreign-backed insurgents across the country. The army has carried out a string of operations against militants, destroying their hideouts and confiscating weapons and communication devices. New footage has shown that the army surrounded the Kafar Aya area near the flashpoint city of Homs. The military has also found huge arms caches and tunnels used by militants in Jubair and Sultaniya. It has declared the two neighborhoods safe. Meanwhile, clashes between militants and government troops are underway outside the capital, Damascus. Reports have said 3 mortar shells fired from an unknown destination landed on a French hospital near a school and on a street in Damascus. Witnesses have said the attacks caused material damage but no casualties. One more support for a political solution to the unrest in Syria. Syria-based opposition groups have welcomed initiatives that would bring all sides to the negotiating table. However, many opposition forces outside the country are still rejecting talks with the Syrian government. Well, joining us to discuss this further is Randy Short. He's with the Dignity, Human Rights and Peace Organization in Washington. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Short. Now, looking at the way things have progressed so far, the European Union has already decided to amend its arms embargo on Syria to expand its support for the militants that are fighting there. Meanwhile, the Syrian government has reiterated time and time again that it is ready for talks. What do you make of this?
Their arrogance, Western European imperialism and white supremacy, they don't recognize non-European people as having the right to sovereignty and rights over their own internal affairs. So there seems to be a desire to return to the 19th century and wear pith helmets and shoot down people, even if it's through proxies. But it's clear that the Syrian government, with almost the majority of the people, have shown that they are not an easy toy to be played with.
So, as the UN Arab League envoy has called for the different parties of Syria to sit down on the negotiating table and figure things out and come up with a diplomatic solution to the crisis, what do you think is going to come of it? Is it even going to happen?
I think I believe that if the military continues to show after 22 months of fighting and not really having a whole lot of help other than the goodwill of a few allied countries and just the people's determination not to have these Salafi terrorists armed by NATO and the United States and the Gulf Cooperation Council, that just maybe some of the people who are trying to get reforms through the government or get a change will realize they can't get it without sitting down and doing what will happen no matter what, and that is everyone talking. They can no longer peg their changes to just saying, we've got to get rid of Assad no matter what. Perhaps he'll end up staying because the country has managed to remain unified behind his leadership and that of the military. So right now, some people are exhausted. They thought that this would happen, just like in Libya or whatever, just a few months. And there seems to be a strong desire of the people that they not be forced by Turkey or other countries that are being proxies of the West, that things change without the people themselves making that decision, which is the best choice for Syria, is for the people to get the reforms that they want and need without the involvement of violence and the bloody hand of the West menacing the people there.
Indeed, now, as you said, that the government of President Bashar al-Assad is not an easy one to confront, even to the West's understanding from this proxy war that it has launched for the past 22 months against Syria. Do you think that it is time for them to admit that or recognize that and really come to the negotiating table, because this proxy war is only going to see more human costs and nothing more?
I wish they cared about the loss of life among the Syrian people. What I see going on now with these last deadly gasps to try to take power by force, you don't have a U.S. Secretary of Defense. So one of the countries that benefits from all this chaos going on is Israel. People who support the Zionist state of Israel's agenda want to try to knock this out before perhaps Chuck Hagel can be confirmed, if he in fact will be. So there are many different things at play that may have nothing to do with the fighters on the ground or the people resisting these bandits. So, but the fighting must at some point stop. They can't. How much of the infrastructure, how many more people can they kill where you have food production halved, hospitals and schools and everything else destroyed? Tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands, displaced, IDPs, people in Lebanon. This is about to engulf the entire region and a conflagration that no one wants. So they have to do something, and it's time for cooler heads within the Syrian opposition to recognize that they will be hated by everyone, and they won't even attain their goals if the government stands, which it has, and they exhaust all of their friendships, all of the lines of money or arms that they'll be loaned. And the European Union is hiding behind conflict in Syria,
Right.
people in the streets fighting against the government that won't even deliver the basic services that people in Europe need.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. That was Randy Short joining us via Skype from Washington. He's with the Dignity Human Rights and Peace Organization. Many thanks indeed for your comments here on Press TV, Mr. Short.